Hey guys, on this edition of Off the Cuff, I'm literally going to give you the key. The key of knowledge. Yeah, I'm going to teach you how to recognize certain fakes that for whatever reason have been flooding the market for years. And some of them are pretty good. Others are extremely obvious that they're phony. Okay, with a couple of true life stories of experiences thrown in. A lot of times, especially online, you're going to see handcuffs for sale that are based upon these. These are the actual real Hyatts. 1910, 1920, roughly, say, up into the 50s or whatever. These are a later one because you can tell with the swivel. But check out the actual form, okay? That's the real one. And I apologize for all the noise because I have all these things sitting on a towel on my couch. You're going to hear a lot of rattling around. Let me just show you one example of the fakes. These happen to have a long chain. Alright, these are not old. They look old, they're not real. I mean, these things are like welded and you can tell the chain and everything, but look at the difference in the cuff. See, it's still a screw key, but it's not a true Hyatt. Oh, and these cuffs, by the way, are being made in India, Pakistan, all kinds of different countries have been making these things forever. Now, there are some cuffs that look real that actually have aged, some of the Indians ones. If you look at my Sheffield video, you'll see the ones that were made in India, but they're, they have age to them. They go way, way back, okay? A lot of the things I have are leg irons, but I'm going to show you another pair of handcuffs. Now, these are, the alligator flexibles. They're based on the Hyatt flexibles. They're absolutely not. And they take, what did I do with it? They take this key. Now, this is the weird shaped key that I find is the one that they use for all of these reproductions, okay? And I'll show you an actual good one. You can see the difference. They look a little the same, but look at they actually put workmanship into the keys, the real handcuff companies. This is as crude as you can get. Some of them I've had where you can actually see the line going down where it was it's just horrendous. But they all seem to have the same shape with this really long neck here and a real short actual tube that goes into the lock. Another one that you're gonna see a lot, and usually these are stamped plantation, Georgia plantation slave cuffs. And they look like this. And they just have these, for some reason, these big boxes on the ends, but they're not. They're not, mine aren't even stamped Georgia plantation. Those things are really expensive and it's just ridiculous. But this is a copy of the adjustable. You can see the teeth. And I mean, this is just something that somebody made up in a, Asian country over there and decided to mass market. And then once it hit especially in American market, they were saying, well, everything that looks like a Derby is absolutely from the Civil War, obviously. And it's just ridiculous because, I've actually had pairs of these where I got them, for $5 at a flea market or whatever, and just barely went like that and snap. You can just tell the workmanship. You can also tell by the hinge. It's a terrible hinge compared to a real Derby. Look at that. Look at the gaps in there, and there's so much wiggle. It's ridiculous. Put them down. Here's another pair. I actually have two of these. These are often sold as pirate irons. Look at the key on this thing. See, you can tell the fake key. I think they're marketed as pirate irons because in Pirates of the Caribbean, or the Caribbean, whatever you pronounce it, Johnny Depp was locked up in a pair of these. That was Orlando Bloom, I think, in the scene in the beginning when they were in jail. Exactly what they used in the movie. After that movie came out, boom, I picked up two pairs of these, dirt cheap. I think I paid $10 and maybe 15. for these just to have them. I look at the hinge on that thing. I mean, come on. Really? It's ridiculous. And sometimes you'll get these and they don't even work with the key. They're so poorly made. Another thing about the key that you have to be careful with, though, is I actually got a pair of cuffs on eBay, a real pair of real Darbies that had this key. That doesn't go against everything I just said. No, because you have to not, the key is usually the dead giveaway that the cuffs are fake, but if you look at the cuffs too and you know what you're looking for, you can tell the difference, especially in the hinges, in the swivels, I mean. So anyway, even though the key was fake, and maybe that's why I got the cuffs for so cheap, I could recognize that the cuffs were real, and that's why I bought them. You can see the hinge in the fake ones, especially this part, is always wafer thin. And that's the part that usually breaks on these things. They also copy leg irons too. For some reason, these things have been popping up everywhere. And you want to talk crude, I mean, look at that. You can't really tell. Here we go. It's threaded metal, you know, that they make bolts out of and stuff. And somebody just pinched it together and made those links. And that's just hammered. It comes through the shackle part. Every single pair I've ever seen for sale listed as Civil War leg irons. And I could take you right down to a couple of antique co-ops right now that have these hanging up. They're listed as Civil War leg irons. Unfortunately, I never get a chance to meet the people that run the booths to inform them otherwise. And their prices aren't ridiculous. If you pay more than 30 bucks for this, forget it. But you're gonna see them all over the place for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And they're not real. I mean, they're not Civil War at all. And you have to be really careful when you inform a dealer that something they have is not what they think it is. That's where tact comes in. Otherwise, you can get punched in the mouth. You don't just walk up and say, that's fake. No, I accidentally let it slip one time. I was at a flea market, and the guy had a table. Every single thing, I mean, he was reproduction. He had the cuffs. He had, you know, the locks that say Wells Fargo, and, you know, the big safes, and the story padlocks, stuff you can buy in catalogs right now, even from home restorers. You know, they sell them for what they are, reproduction. But he had all this stuff. Oh wow, nice collection, but you know, I'm looking for the real stuff. Do you have anything that's not reproduction? And he was like, none of my stuff is reproduction, and he freaked out. So I was just like, whatever, dude. And then I walked away. But that was like 8 years ago, and he's still there, and he still has all the same stuff. Nobody's really bought any, but I don't know. He must sell other stuff too. I do know that he has some real antiques in his stand, but dude, this is like nothing. But I think the reason that people mistake these is because of the unusual linkage. Finally, these are a little tougher to tell when they're not real. These are leg irons with the long chain and the ring. It's welded chain, usually. Different kinds of welds. Now, a metal worker or somebody with more experience than me can actually look at this and tell you, you know, oh, well, that was made in this time period based on the welds. These aren't the real ones. First of all, they got that telltale key, but you gotta look. See, you have to keep looking, and there's the cheap, crappy hinge. And also, if you had noticed, and I'll show you close-ups, these are actually round punches in there. Same thing with the flexibles. See how they're round? Real Darbies actually look like flying birds, kinda. When they hammer down the end of the lock tube, it's almost like they used a V-shaped wedge where they went once and then boom. Just make sure that that is secure. The end cap is secure when they manufacture it. Whereas the imitation ones are round, like they actually just used a punch to force the metal together, is what they're basically doing. This is way better and more sophisticated craftsmanship because going in at an angle with a straight, like a chisel, it's hard to explain. It sort of latches the metal together, the two opposite sides, because when you punch down through it, it's more like dovetailing. That's a better way to explain it. There's also tons and tons and tons of fake padlocks out there. Most of these are just pieces of pipe that people cut off, put a cap on one end, and for some reason a lot of these are the Sheffield I think it's because they modified drill bits, something like that. Look at how crude that is, come on. Believe it or not, when they say they don't make stuff like they used to, they mean it, because in the 1800s, especially in the 1880s, Victorian era, we all know the craftsmanship was amazing. Look at that. It's just like a horrible little pin. So, you know, you might want to add these pieces to your collection just as representatives of reproductions and phonies out there like I did. And that way, when people come and look at the collection, you know, when I do a lecture on it, I can show examples and, you know, maybe give people a heads up, because a lot of times I've had people offer to sell me stuff and it's this repro stuff. Believe it or not, most antique dealers are very, very happy to get the information. They don't want to cheat the public. They don't want to cheat their customers. That's bad business. And I would say 99.999% of the antique dealers I've come across are not just honest, but that's why I go to the flea markets every weekend, because you learn. I've been able to see things and, you know, learn about different types of antiques and different things about history that you just, it's unbelievable, the stuff you have. These are the repro leg irons with the dots, and I have a pair of authentic ones. Unfortunately, I don't have the maker of these, but these have, well, I like to call them flying birds. It's like a V-shaped chisel in there. And if you get one of the British books, the books about British cuffs, they'll go into further detail about the manufacturing. But check out the difference in the hinges. These are the real ones. Look at the spacing in there. No spacing in here. And these ones are the real ones. Like I said, have a nice heavy chain, nice heavy link. And if you were to hold it, this feels like a feather compared to this guy. You can see the difference in thickness a little bit. This is the real one. And this is the key that came with the real one. This is the key, sorry for shaking. This is the key that came with the real one. And the real ones will be in another episode of Off the Cuff, because these have a very interesting backstory of historical significance. I've actually escaped from these before. These will be in another episode of Off the Cuff. But you can see that they're very similar, and if you don't know what you're looking for, it's easy to get fooled. Also, check out how crude, and I'll show you the close-up. You can see the hammer marks in there, whereas the authentic ones are just smooth as silk. Perfect. And you can feel the difference in the steel. It has a slight curvature here for comfort of wearing, whereas this one's flat. That's another giveaway for the fakes. And you can also see, always look on the edge too, because the edges are just crap. You can see hammer marks like crazy. I mean, these ones, they somehow formed it to almost like a sharp edge, but it's very elegant British design, the real ones. Also, where the chain attaches is generally thinner and deeper than the real guys. The real one's way thicker. And the difference in weight, you can instantly tell the difference. And also, beware of all the stampings. You're gonna find all kinds of stampings and different numbers and stuff and dates and names of prisons and jails and names of slaves and names of... If it has a brass tag on, forget it, okay? Just forget it. One last look at the fake keys. And these also are hammered. The holes are never on center. It's like they really didn't care at that point. Whereas the real key is beautifully made all the time. British cuffs, Providence tool, they really took care in their keys. The phony ones, forget it, they didn't really care. And when I bought that pair of cuffs that I told you about that had the fake key with it, it didn't even fit. So a guy probably had a couple of different pairs of cuffs and just grabbed one that looked like it or whatever. But again, he wasn't out to cheat me or anything like that. I knew what I was buying, and he knew what he was selling. Everything was cool. It didn't even say original key. It just said, you know, like old handcuffs with keys. So, boom. That's exactly what was in the description. I hope you enjoyed this little educational excursion on Off the Cuff. If you have any questions, please ask them in the comment section. If you're shopping for handcuffs, if you're new to the collecting field, just beware, do your homework. You know, you're going to get fooled. It happens to everyone, but that's how you learn too. That's how you learn, because once you get stung, boy, you will never forget that feeling, especially if it's for a lot of money. I hope that never happens to you, but it probably will. And it's just something that is part of the experience. For those of you in America, please don't forget to vote. It's very important. Just vote. The important thing is to vote, okay? And stay safe, because this coronavirus is still devastating and destroying pretty much everything. I hope that these videos give you, 15-minute break from all the crap that's going on out there. All right, guys, take it easy.